Welcome into the Wolverine Recruiting Podcast. I'm your host, Trevor Ritchie, here as always with Michigan recruiting insider EJ Holland. And EJ, it's been a while. We kind of broke a drought here, right? With four-star tight end Deacon Tonielli committing to Michigan today. Of course, happy Father's Day to all the fathers out there watching, but we had to get here to break this down and bring EJ in to kind of tell us how this recruitment played out.
Yeah, definitely. So Tony Ellie likes to keep him to himself, doesn't do a ton of interviews or anything. I went out to Oswego, his high school, to see him back in April, and he was just always really high on Michigan. I put in a pick at that point. He had made two unofficial visits to Michigan, really enjoyed his time on campus, loved the feeling around Ann Arbor. He had the home state school, Illinois, making a big push, Tennessee also made a big push for him. But at the end of the day, I think the opportunity to play at Michigan in that kind of atmosphere, Michigan obviously having a bigger global brand than Illinois, I think played a role, as well as just Michigan's rich history with tight ends, the way they utilize tight ends. They are very important to Michigan's offensive scheme and what they plan to do. So I just think he saw it as a really good fit even before the official. He made his official visit this weekend. I think he just got all the answers he was looking for. He really bonded well with new Michigan tight ends coach Grant Newsome, who was able to close with a commitment before he left campus.
So when you look at the Michigan board overall now, what does this do in terms of recruitment? Where do they turn next, big picture wise, not just tight end?
Yeah, I think, big picture wise, one, it's an important, commitment just because it ends a drought. I mean, the
Right.
last time Michigan had a commitment was March 29th, I believe, late March sometime, with Benjamin Hall, three-star running back out of Georgia. So big picture, it ends the drought, definitely gets momentum back on Michigan's side. And I don't think, Tonielli is that big name that really gets, the snowball effect going. But I think any type of momentum definitely helps. And then, as far as him as a player, he's a big athletic kid. He's about 6'5.5", 6'6", about 210 pounds right now. Really athletic player. That's a high level basketball guy as well. So you kind of want a basketball background with your tight end. That's always great to have. So he's a guy that spends a lot of time as a flex end. And I think he's going to have to work a little more on his strength, just adding some weight, playing more, being more comfortable playing in line. But as a flex guy, he's a tremendous receiver. He can go up and get it. He, looks fluid getting in and out of breaks, which is impressive for his size. So I really like Tonielli as a flex end. And then also just to mention Grant Newsome, Michigan's new tight ends coach, very young guy, obviously played at Michigan, played along the offensive line, kind of proving himself as a recruiter, winning over Tonielli, closing with his commitment. Michigan fans should remember that Newsome wasn't his original recruiter. It was actually Jay Harbaugh who transitioned to coaching safeties. So Newsome came in, did a fantastic job, and was able to close. So it's his first win as a Michigan assistant, which is big. So those are kind of some big picture thoughts. As far as what's next, I think Michigan will keep the momentum rolling. There's still guys finishing up their official visits. So I think that this weekend, next weekend, with more talent coming in, Michigan will keep landing commitments as the summer progresses.
And I preface that last question because I didn't want to lead you in, but what do they do next specifically at tight end? I mean, you referenced how much they use that position. Is there potential for there to be another one in this class, or even just 24, 25? How do you think Michigan approaches the tight end position?
Yeah, I think in the 2023 class, there's still a possibility to take another tight end. Chico Holt, three-star out of Houston, visited last weekend. He's more of a blocking tight end. And then Cade Eldridge is visiting this upcoming weekend out of the Pacific Northwest. He is a converted defensive end that likes to get physical. So again, another more blocking type tight end. So when you have such an athletic flex end like Tonielli, who's, if you look at his film, it's really mostly him just split out wide. So they're really looking for another guy that can block. Chico Holt is a guy that only had 250 yards receiving last year, so he's more of a blocker. Like I mentioned, Cade Eldridge being a converted defensive end is a physical blocker. So I think you could see Michigan add another tight end in the class with either Holt or Eldridge. I think right now Michigan is in a better spot with Holt as opposed to Eldridge. So we'll see if that plays out. They could, bulk and just take Tonielli and look ahead to 2024, there are some really talented tight ends that Michigan is in the mix with there, and it gives Grant Newsome a little more time to get settled in and establish those relationships and maybe land even more high profile prospects at the position. But in terms of 2023, I think right now the guys to keep an eye on if Michigan does decide to take a second tight end would be Chico Holt and Cade Eldridge.
But definitely a confidence boost for Grant, right? I mean, you touched on that, but that's got to be big for him and his progression here.
Yeah, definitely. I do think it's a confidence boost for Grant. He gets that, first commitment out of the way. And, it's great. I think Grant's going to be a really good recruiter at Michigan. He's so young. He knows how to connect with kids. He's been hitting the recruiting trail hard. You saw him out at the South Alabama mega camp. So, he's getting out there. He's becoming more and more involved. And with his experience as an offensive lineman, I think he can assist Sharon Moore, who has more responsibilities as co-offensive coordinator. I think he can assist with some of the offensive line recruitments now that he's kind of wrapping up tight end recruiting this cycle.
Anything else, EJ? Of course, I would ask you who's next. I don't know if you have a crystal ball over there waiting on all the people watching to tell us now that this drought is over, who should they expect next? But I'll leave an open floor to you, however you want to address that.
Well, if you want to find out who could be next, you can subscribe to the Wolverine.com, $1 for 1 year today. So just head over to the Wolverine.com, click the subscribe button. It is $1 for 1 year. You can't buy anything with $1 anymore. I went over to get some gas the other day. It's like $6.55 in Chicago. So you can't even get like a sixth of a gallon of gas for a year membership at the Wolverine.
You got to like that lob, though, EJ. I mean, that was Chris Paul-esque right there. I knew you weren't going to give us too much, but as always, had to let you go into the $1 for 1 year before it comes back to me. You guys know the drill. $1 for 1 year on the Wolverine. Don't forget to like, rate, subscribe, share. Until next time, go blue.